Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. Skip calls out James Harden for disappearing last night and believes it was the biggest meltdown we've seen since LeBron in the 2011 finals. Speaking of LeBron, the debate is on between Jordan and the King in Akron. Are they now in the same conversation? Shannon shares a little bit about his conversation with Colin Kaepernick last night and sets the record straight about what Kaepernick is looking for from the NFL. FS1 NFL analyst Greg Jennings tells us why he believes Tony Romo is not completely over football. Plus, former NBA champion Steven Jackson is here to tell us all about the Big Three that will debut on June 25th right here on FS1, and he gives us a Cowboys shout-out. Skip, your Spurs are moving on.
Beautiful morning.
It is.
Go Spurs, go!
That's the corniest.
No, it's not.
You're wearing Spurs colors.
Hey,
You're fully on the bandwagon now.
Steeped in tradition.
No, actually I got my, my brotherhood outfit going on, Skip. I got a bean pie and the final call in my duffel bag. I'm headed home today, so
Okay.
I'll be good.
I'm impressed.
But actually I got this uniform on to bury James Harden today.
Okay.
Ooh.
That works.
Well, you're off that bandwagon.
I'll be right there with you.
Let me get some now.
Let's talk about that. It started with a huge win by the Spurs. They blew out the Rockets last night by 39 points without Kawhi Leonard, who missed the game with an ankle injury. LaMarcus Aldridge had a season-high 34 points, but the bigger story was James Harden. Harden finished with just 10 points and made only 2 field goals. His first field goal attempt came in the middle of the second quarter. Let's take a listen to Harden after the game.
You got to take it for what it is. Everything falls on my shoulder. I take responsibility for it. For both ends of the floor, and, it's tough. It's frustrating, definitely, especially the way we were resilient all year long. We've been fighting through adversity. We've been really good at bouncing back. It hurts. It stings. But like I said, we just got to figure a way to get better, and we will. But, credit to the Spurs. They had a really good season. They're a really, really good team, extremely well coached. And they were a better team this series.
Skip, how do you explain Harden's performance?
Shannon Sharpe, enjoy. This was the biggest superstar meltdown we have witnessed since LeBron James in the 2011 NBA Finals. No Kawhi Leonard, no Tony Parker, both of whom were NBA Finals MVPs. And as I tweeted just before the game, all the pressure last night was on the home team to hold serve with no Kawhi and get it back to San Antonio for Game 7. And right on cue, James Harden unraveled under that pressure. Couldn't even take a shot for the first quarter and a half. And the truth is, it was pretty predictable because James Harden has always had some LeBron in him. When the lights are brightest and the lights are hottest and the stakes are highest, he tends to melt or shrink under that pressure. I don't even call it choking in James Harden's case, because choking is what happens when you miss a last-second shot.
Right.
This is big picture. This is disappearing, shrinking, melting, getting smaller and smaller. He was 6'5" last night when the game started, and he was playing 5'11" when the game ended. And I chuckle at all the people who say, this was inexplicably shocking. No, it wasn't. It was a continuation of Game 5, the Tuesday night game, when down the stretch, fourth quarter, no Kawhi Leonard. What happened? James Harden disappeared. My Spurs went 6 big minutes of the fourth quarter. Couldn't score a basket, couldn't score a point. Went the first 4 minutes of overtime, couldn't score a point. And what happened? James Harden didn't happen because he couldn't score either. In overtime, he got blanked. Missed all 3 of his threes and had 3 huge game-turning, game-saving for my Spurs turnovers.
Right.
And to me, this has been the history of James Harden, and people can't see the history because they get blinded by the beard. I don't fear the beard when the stakes are highest because the beard will shrink when the stakes are highest and the lights are brightest, because remember his first finals? Only finals against LeBron, the first breakthrough in Miami, that'd be 2012.
2012, yep.
Remember what happened? The Thunder go to Miami. This format was 2-3-2 then, but they go to Miami 1 game all. And what happened in Game 3 and Game 4? James Harden did not happen. He shot 2 for 10, 0 for 4 from 3, and the next game 2 for 10, 1 for 5 from 3. And for those 3 games in Miami, in which the Heat obviously closed out the Thunder, James Harden shot 9 for 31 from the floor. That's 29%, and 4 for 17 from 3, which is 24%. But that got overshadowed and overlooked because in the end, it was all about LeBron finally broke through and won his first ring, and that LeBron owned Kevin Durant, right? Those are the 2 superstars in that final. But if you look at the conference finals in 2015 against a Golden State team that I thought was sort of 50-50 at that point against Houston because they weren't yet the Warriors that we know and love now, or sometimes love. And Houston had a chance, game 2 at Golden State, to win it in the end. Could we see that? James Harden has the ball. He's dribbling. They're down 1. He's going to get his last shot, and he dribbles right into Steph and right through Clay, and he loses the basketball. Whoa! He lost the basketball, and then he's so upset. We'll see it in just a second. Lost the basketball, but anyway, he walks off the floor and knocks down a big curtain partition because he was so upset. Here he goes. Whoops. Anyway, okay, so that was just one of those games. Then he goes on. Game 3 of that series, he shoots 3 for 16, 1 for 5 from 3. Game 5 of that series, he goes 2 for 11 with an NBA record 12 turnovers. Who remembers? Everybody should remember that because the 12 turnovers broke his own playoff record of 2013 when he was Houston versus Oklahoma City of 10 turnovers. So you've got disaster upon disaster upon disaster, and in the end, why should I think anything else would happen last night? It was just a continuation of Game 5 because I told you after Game 1, the blowout in San Antonio of my Spurs, I said, my Spurs beat them the last 3 times they played them. They've always done very well against James Harden, and Houston is a funky team because they're really James Harden or bust. They have one big star. It's James Harden. He was your MVP candidate all year long. And when he is cooking, they are cooking because they can just start nailing threes, but they feed off his energy and his distributing and also getting to the rim.
Playmaking.
And if he doesn't early on, they just shrink like he does, and all of a sudden they look like a mediocre basketball team right on cue, and it was happily predictable for my Spurs. Thank you very much.
Well, I said this, Skip, and I picked the Rockets, but I said if they're not careful, San Antonio will beat them. And I said if you respect, if you underestimate no one, you respect everyone, you won't have a problem. They looked at it and they saw that Kawhi wasn't playing. Oh, we got this.
Yep.
And I keep telling you, now one or two things might be true and both might be true. Either Kawhi, the best player in the NBA, does not play in San Antonio, or the Western Conference isn't as strong as people say it is. 1, 2, or all, both. Both. Not THFF, both. Skip, this is a bigger meltdown than what LeBron did for the simple fact, now, if they'd have had Dirk would have been out and LeBron melted down, we could have said, okay. But Skip, with Kawhi Leonard out, a guy that's in the MVP discussion, and whether you think he's the best player, the second best, he is a top 5 player in the NBA. Not only was he out this game, he was out all of overtime and missed about 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And if James Harden, if you're that guy, you must seal that deal. Skip, he was off for the last 2 games. James Harden in the last 2 games had more turnovers himself than the Spurs had as a team in games 5 and 6. And when you do that, you don't even give yourself an opportunity to get a foul. You don't even give yourself an opportunity to get the ball up to attempt to get a ball in the basket. Skip, you said he couldn't. I wrote this down. You said he couldn't attempt. Was it that he couldn't or he didn't try to? I've never seen anything like this, Skip.
No.
It reminded me, if I didn't know better, you remember when Kobe, everybody said Kobe's a ball hog and he shoots too much, and he tried to prove a point in Phoenix, and he wouldn't take a shot, he was just passing it. It almost looked like that. And I'm like, well, James, what's going on? This is not.
He wasn't pouting, though. He was just shrinking.
I'm saying, exactly. This was not a moment where I'm going to show you, you want me to pass the ball, I'm going to pass it to show you what they can't do. But, Skip, 95, 97% of this blame goes to James Harden. Because, and make it worse, he didn't foul out the entire year. He fouled out of this game. How do you foul out on 11 attempts? You're not being aggressive.
You've unraveled. You have. Psychologically, emotionally, you've just unraveled. You've come apart. because the pressure was all on, really, it was just on James last
Correct.
night, right?
Yes.
I mean, who thought that the Spurs should have any chance in that game?
Right.
And here's why it's even more shameful. If you told me sitting here 24 hours ago that my Spurs would shoot 5 for 22 from the three-point line last night, think about that, 5 for 22, I would have said Rockets by 20 or 25.
Right.
Really? This is shameful because they had to play. This is Pop getting forced to play a Jonathan Simmons just because Tony Parker was out and then Kawhi was out. Jonathan Simmons once had to pay $150 to try out for the Spurs D-League team, the Austin Toros. That's how bad it was for Jonathan Simmons. That's where he came from.
Right.
And DeJounte Murray, who's been in the doghouse all year, Pop doesn't like to play rookies. He had no choice. He threw him in. Lo and behold, DeJounte doesn't fear the beard or fear the moment, right?
Off the bench, 11 points, 10 rebounds.
And
for a guard.
For 5 assists. He's long, he's athletic, he can't shoot threes, but he can shoot twos, and he gets a little lost on defense, but he can rebound, and all of a sudden, the kid who didn't play all year is looking like a star in this game. And all of a sudden, because they were forced to, they had no choice. They had to tell LaMarcus before the game, we know it was Kawhi's team all year, but now you got the greenest light you've had since last year. Just shoot it.
Right.
As soon as they hit your hands, just let it go and don't worry about it because we're probably going to lose anyway. That's sort of the mentality. Yeah. Just let it go. Let it fly. And you saw what happened.
He was ultra aggressive.
Hey,
he was Skip, that was the old LaMarcus.
Oh, that was LaMarcus from Portland to me. I mean, we saw it occasionally last year, but when the chips were on the table, we didn't see it.
Skip, I just can't understand. The Houston Rockets average 115 points a game in the regular season. And without Kawhi Leonard, the best perimeter defender in the NBA, you score 75. You score 75 points at home without the best defensive player on the court. And when you look at it, Skip, Eric Gordon played 30 minutes. He gave you 6 points. Patrick Beverly plays 32 minutes. He gives you 7. Lou Williams, almost 21 minutes. He gives you 8. So if James Harden doesn't go berserk and gets 50, you're not winning. This is a game that you're going to get blowed out in.
Absolutely. So to me, bottom line, and I respected your position. You would always make good points about James Harden for MVP.
Yes.
You could still make them today because it's for the regular season. James Harden was made for the regular season because game in and game out, nobody can get to the rim any easier.
No.
I'm not Westbrook's right there with him, but nobody can glide to the rim and lay it up softly off the glass the way James Harden can.
So crafty with that
and
left.
he can shoot threes better, a little better than Russell Westbrook, even though Russell improved this year. But in the end, to me, this is the age we live in, social media age. James Harden is a little more internet mystique than reality to me, because all I care, I always tell you, all I care about is what you do in the postseason. The other thing's fine because it matters on where you're seated.
Right.
But after that, can you rise and shine when the lights are the brightest? And he never has. He really if you really study his resume in the postseason, it's woefully less than it should be, because if you look at his stats, even for these 2 series in this postseason, they were significantly down in every category from his regular season stats. Made for the regular season, made for the magazine cover, because he's got a great beard. If you like beards, I'm not a beard guy, but if you like beards, isn't that a good one?
Strong beard.
It's a strong beard. And he dated Chloe for a while, so that increases your mystique, and that's
Was she at the game last night?
I don't think she was there last night.
Well, something happened, and then Ryan, talking about the scoring,
Yeah.
Ryan Anderson,
He just
0 points.
But he can't shoot at home, and I don't get it, but it's in his head now that he can't make threes at home. So he was a disaster.
But Skip, am I surprised the Spurs won? No. I thought they would win. But Skip, nobody saw this. Nobody saw this. 10 from Danny Green, and you mentioned Jonathan Simmons and Patty Mills. You get 2 points from Manu. 2.
He did have, 4 and 3 rebounds, assists, which is, for him, not bad.
But what we should have saw, Skip, is in game 5, is that they shot 36% from the field. The Rockets, 29% from 3. And it's feast or famine for them. Now, if those threes are going in, they're going to blow you out. You don't have a chance. But the problem that they have is that once Nene got hurt, they don't have a guy, if they're struggling shooting from the outside, they can dump it into and say, okay, go get me a basket. That's the problem that they have. Because see, now Golden State had that problem last year. If they weren't making their threes, they didn't have anybody they could dump the ball down to and go get a basket. But guess what they got now? They got that 7-foot long guy that not only can he shoot the three, he can post you up. That's the advantage. And Houston, look, no, you know who's made for the regular season, Skip? Mike D'Antoni's offense.
I would agree with that.
That's what
I'm not a D'Antoni guy either. I think he gets overhyped and overrated through the regular
Oh,
season.
it's fun. Oh, look at Steve Nash won MVPs. They putting up threes, and Amari Stoudemire is all first team All NBA.
Yep.
James Harden is rejuvenated.
It's some smoke and mirrors going on.
But when you get into a series,
Yep.
and they're not going to let you get up and down for all these games, now what can you do?
Yep. And bench. Everybody said, well, why don't you play 7 or 8, 9 guys? Who? Show me.
Decker,
Really?
Troy Witt.
He did come in and make his first 2 threes last night,
But
but Montrezl Harrell played 3 minutes. I don't know. They don't really have a bench. While the Spurs, I told you this all year, for what it's worth, they're the deepest team in pro basketball because all those guys down to the end of the bench are all pretty good. You can call them spare parts, but they know the system. They know how to play defense, and they'll come in and they'll give you skill and will. That's all of them, all the way to the end of the bench.
But Pop played all these guys because the game was in hand. Now, as they go further, if you think all these guys that played last night are going to play against Golden State, that's not going to happen.
But what was the decided advantage the Spurs had from Game 1 in this series that they could not take advantage of until last night? LaMarcus and Gasol against Clint Capella and who? James Harden trying to guard one of them, right?
And even Gasol wouldn't bail him out.
He wouldn't.
He putting the ball on the court, getting to the rack.
But it's almost an indictment of the coaching staff. Why can't you figure this out? Or maybe they're just not made psychologically to take the ball to the rim over inferior defenders. But last night they won the boards last night 60-37. They should have been doing that from Game 1, right?
Yeah, I mean, but without Nene, Skip, they didn't have enough. They didn't have enough big bodies because Ryan Anderson can't bang with a 4 or 5 legitimately down on the block. And James Harden, Pau Gasol, you need your butt kicked. First of all, you let him guard you a couple of times in Game 5. Get to the basket and put the ball in the hole. They didn't bail him out. But I keep telling you, it's the system.
Okay, system. We'll talk about that when we do our prediction on Golden State versus Spurs. Final thought. Allow me to say to my friend Eddie House and my friend Chris Broussard and even my friend Meta World Peace, all of whom came in after Game 1 and said, got to face the facts. They're too old. They're too slow. They're too unathletic. They're just too boring. They're done. Did I not hear it? And I hung right in. I said, no, they're capable of stinking up one playoff game and flipping the script the next one when you least expect it. And guess what? They won in 6 games.
One day, maybe they'll learn.
I thought it was going 7, Skip. I had the Spurs in 7, but I didn't see
I did after Game 1. I thought it was going to go 7.
40, did you see a 40-point win?
Heck no.
That's tied. The 39-point loss is tied for the 3rd worst home elimination game defeat in playoff history.
Who had the first 2? Good.
So that is
were they playing with 3 players?
No mercy. LeBron James advanced to his 7th straight Eastern Conference Finals on Sunday, leading to even more comparisons to Michael Jordan. LeBron has 3 titles and 7 finals appearances. Jordan went 6 for 6 in the finals. Jeff Van Gundy talked about the comparison earlier in the week on the Low Post podcast. Let's take a listen.
The conversation is relevant right now, whether he wins another championship or not. So he's playing at still peak prime production and efficiency this late in his career. The thing you don't know is how much longer can he do it. The conversation, it's already relevant. I mean, this guy, because I'm not going to go as much on championships. If you're going to talk about best careers, there's no way you can say it's not close. It's close already. And if he runs off another 2 to 3 years like he's going at right now, you're talking about 17 years like this, it's going to be amazing.
Shannon, does Van Gundy have a point?
You know he has a point, Skip, baby.
I know
you know, Skip.
I must have just awakened this morning with this new thought. Oh, yeah, he's right.
And not only is he close, in a couple of more years, he's going to be so close to him, he's going to be in front of him.
Oh, really? A couple more years?
Yeah. And here's the thing, Skip, is that when you talk about Jordan and you bring up LeBron, 6 championships. Well, if you're just basing it on championships, shouldn't Bill Russell be the best player of all time? You know why you don't do that? Because you look at body of work. You say, well, Bill Russell only averaged about 15.5 points per game. He did average over 20 rebounds a game. Okay, but that's not what we do. We say Michael Jordan is the best, but LeBron's body of work brings everything into the discussion, Skip. And as Jeff Van Gundy is noting, he says in year 14, he's about to be selected to his 11th straight All-NBA first team. So when you bring in the amount of points that he scored, the way he assists the ball, the way he rebounds the ball, the 6 straight finals, if he goes to this one, this will be 7. And then you look at his playoffs, Skip, it has to mean something. You're looking at it like, well, Michael Jordan was 6-0. But Michael Jordan played 6 years. So what about the other 10 years? He didn't go to the finals? I mean, why didn't he go to the finals then?
Pretty good to be 6-0 with 6 MVPs in the finals, though, right? Can you do much better
in
than
16 years. LeBron, if he were to go to this one, would be 8-14. You told me it should mean something going to the Super Bowl because that's how you graded Tom. Because if you're just going by Super Bowl wins, Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw, and Troy Aikman should be better than Tom Brady because they're undefeated in Super Bowls. Joe Montana, not only is he undefeated, he never threw an interception.
But Brady won 6 out of 7.
Brady is 5-2.
Huh? 5? No. Oh, that one. Well,
And he could
got stolen.
And he could be 2. He could be 2-5. He could be 4-3. He could be 3-4. Skip, but I agree. And I want to go hear your point because I want to come back at you. When you look at LeBron James' career in year 14, he's playing at a level that no other player has ever played at in this year, at this later stage in their career. And to post career highs in rebounds and assists after leading the league in minutes, there's no question you must have this conversation. And he's still painting on that canvas. And when this masterpiece is complete, we might hang it in the, the Louvre.
Really?
Yeah.
Above 23s? Yeah. The real 23.
I'm just
23.
He's 23 too.
Oh, okay. He stole it.
He stole it.
Look, I like Jeff Van Gundy a lot. Good guy, terrific analyst, man of faith, respect him a lot. But this is obviously absurd, and it's obviously biased by the fact that Michael Jordan inflicted so much basketball pain on Jeff Van Gundy when he was an assistant and the head coach for the New York Knicks. Just look at the record. Assistant and head coach versus Michael. He was 7-25 in the regular season, 0-4 in playoff series with a record of 6-15.
So that means he can't have an unbiased opinion?
Well, guess what happened January of '97? Do you remember the con man comment made by one Jeff Van Gundy that set off Michael Jordan?
Yes.
Remember it? It was basically, this is from Jeff, before they were about to play the Bulls at the United Center. This is about Jordan. He tries to make players on other teams feel he cares about them. Then he goes out there and tries to destroy them. And he put it in the context if he's a con man.
Yes.
So Michael decided, because he got mad, if Michael gets mad, he was the ultimate force of nature. He decided, watch this Jeff Van Gundy. He goes out the next night and goes for 51, which was the most points any NBA player scored that season. And after basket, he stared down Van Gundy as he ran up court. And then after he scored his 51st point in a close game that they won by 2, he shouted at Van Gundy, and then he followed Van Gundy up the tunnel and screamed at him, "Take that, you little bleep, you know what." And Michael's quote to the media after the game was, "I guess I didn't make any friends out there tonight," which is the ultimate boom, right?
But you know what Michael did. Oh, he invited him over to smoke cigars, take him to dinner, play golf, and then go out there and bash him over the head.
The joke is on them because that's what he was made of. He was a killer on the court. He did not care about any friendship. And if Charles Barkley dared to think, we're really close. Nope, not when it really matters.
Not in competition, y'all, not close.
Not close at all. And then I remind you also of the 1993 conference finals when the Knicks were actually favored because they were seeded higher than the Bulls, and they won the first 2 games at home. But a story broke that Michael was accused of going to Atlantic City between game 1 and 2 and gambling. And he took that very personally and got very, very angry and went home. And in Game 4, he dropped 54 on Van Gundy's team. And then next game, in Game 5, he went for 29, 14, and 10. And they won all 4 games from that point forward. And Van Gundy lives with those memories, with the pain of that. And finally, because Jeff does work for ABC, and ABC is going to televise the finals, I'm sure there's some concern on the part of network executives that it's going to be a little tougher to sell Golden State Cleveland number 3 for a 3rd year in a row than it was to sell 1 or 2. So why wouldn't Jeff say, what the heck, and try to sell it? You know what? Maybe LeBron is better than Michael Jordan. Just throw it out there just to set people off, because he's actually preaching to a very large choir of blind witnesses led by Shannon Sharpe.
No.
So
Skip,
I get it, but it's just blasphemous baloney.
It is not blasphemous because when you look at when LeBron James is done, he will be either the all-time leading scorer or he will be number 2. When you look at when he's done, he will probably be in the top 10 in assists. Nobody in the history of the game has his resume right now as far as points, rebounds, and assists. Nobody can say what he's saying. And if you look at what he's done, and I told you earlier, Skip, and you talk about, well, you can say that. If you look at these 8 playoff games, this is the best LeBron James has played in 8 games in his career. And
again, asterisk against the Pacers and the Raptors without Kyle Lowry. Really? You're going to take that to your bank? I'm not. It just doesn't count.
Skip, sometimes you have to play who you play, and then sometimes guys get injured. Well, but you killing James Harden for not showing up to the bail. Here's a guy that shows up to the bail. It doesn't matter who's on the court. It doesn't matter where they're playing. He does his job, Skip. If the regular season doesn't mean anything, why not just have the playoffs?
Okay, look, I've told you from the start, and I contend this to this day, he's the best passer in basketball. I give you that.
He's the best player, but go ahead, carry on.
He's the best passer in basketball, and he's also the most durable superstar ever. And I'm going to knock on wood for his sake because I don't want to see him get hurt. But the point is, he's just piling up points and assists and rebounds by longevity, just playing year after year. And obviously, Michael had to take a little sabbatical for a couple of years.
Michael played 16 years.
Yeah, but he took 2 off, right?
And he still played 16 years.
All right, but he was older when he came back, and he didn't take care of himself the way your guy takes care of himself.
What they got to do with me?
Okay.
What they got to do with me and Bron?
All this has to do with me is 6-0 in finals with 6 MVPs, and you mentioned body of work. I keep telling you, you forced me to do this. I didn't want to do this, but you wanted to do this topic, so I'm going to do it. Again,
do it.
Body of work forces me to say, Shannon, it's over because LeBron permanently stained his resume at least 3 just painful times where I couldn't even watch what happened we just talked about it in the previous topic. The 2011 finals was the worst superstar meltdown ever because it went over 3 straight games. And again, I've told you the story. LeBron went up 2-1 at Dallas with Game 4 still to be played in Dallas. And according to Stephen A. Smith, he went back to his hotel room and started making a list of I told you so people. And he put me number 1 on the list. I'm going to tell him so, number 1. And then he went out and just shrank under the pressure because then the pressure was all on the Heat. You got to close the deal. You're up 2-1. On a Maverick team that looks pretty inferior to you. It's sort of Dirk and who? It's kind of Dirk or bust,
right?
Basically
they had Dirk, Jason Kidd.
Okay.
Jason,
whatever.
Those 2 guys would be in the Hall of Fame, but it was Jason Terry and had Stevenson. They had a bunch. What you call them on that team too?
Okay, and all of a sudden, the chosen one turned into the frozen one in ways that all the ESPN analysts said, we've never seen a superstar look mentally weaker than LeBron looked in those 3 games. Well, I can't expunge that from his record. I can't just erase that. And obviously, did Michael Jordan ever go to an NBA Finals as the leader of a team that got blown off the floor in 5 games by a record finals margin? That's on LeBron's resume. MJ never did that. And then I got to hark back to how about that last series in Cleveland before he took his talents to South Beach? the owner, Dan Gilbert, accused him of quitting against the Boston Celtics. And it got so bad that LeBron's confidants had to put out the story that LeBron, before the closeout game, had to be sedated because of a personal issue in the locker. Are you kidding me? And so that was his excuse. He was sedated. I'm sorry, it's on your resume. If we're going to talk about body of work, that's also on your body of work.
Skip, you said he turned into the frozen one against that series. He was 27, 19, and 9.
Okay, but look at the last 3 games. He just shrank. It's just like it was what we were saying last night about James Harden. What are you doing? Where are you? He just mostly stood out on the perimeter and said he didn't want to be involved.
Just for me, because although I was 16 years old when Michael Jordan got drafted, and I bought just about every pair of shoes that he came out with for the first 10, 15 years, Michael Jordan never played bad in a series.
Not for a whole series. He had bad games and missed occasional last-second shots.
Michael Jordan never lost a playoff series.
Well, he obviously lost a playoff series.
Hold up. What do you mean? How can
Look who he lost to. Hall of Fame City. That's who he lost to.
But, Skip, you see what you're doing here, Skip? When Michael Jordan loses, you give the other team credit. When LeBron loses, you blame him. Why won't you give the other teams credit like you give those teams that beat Michael?
Well, you just said Dallas really were Dirk or bust. I mean, how can I give them credit for that?
They still had 2 Hall of Famers. Is Dirk going to the Hall of Fame? Dirk is a top 5 scorer. Jason Kidd has more assists than anybody that's ever played the game.
Yeah, Jason Kidd was kind of at the end of his run, but it's okay. I give you that.
You see what you're doing again?
Yeah.
Jason Kidd was at the end of his run. Dirk's okay, but I know he's a top 5 scorer. I know he has an MVP, but he really wasn't that good.
Well, Kareem blasted him the other day and said he was a one-trick pony. Then he backed off and said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But he did say it, and I think in the end he really believed he's just that sort of one-trick pony. He's got the turnaround, 1-foot jumper. Okay.
Well, it wasn't like Kareem was shooting 3-pointers.
No.
He threw the sky hook.
Yeah. So if big picture on LeBron James, without Ray Allen's shot and Draymond's suspension, LeBron would be 1-6 in NBA
Without
Finals.
Steve Kerr's shot and without John Paxson's shot, Michael Jordan would be 4-2.
You don't know that because they could have still won the game.
Well, you don't know that because they could have still won the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, he called both those shots. He told both of them, I'm going to give you the ball because I'm going to be doubled.
But hold on. John Paxson did score 10 points in the last 6 minutes. Mm-hmm. And Michael Jordan kept getting the ball because he was hot. So tell the whole story behind the story that you're telling.
Well, LeBron had any help from Kyrie and Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson? And my God, do you remember the three-point shooting in his first championship run of Shane Battier and Mike Miller and Mario Chalmers? They were much hotter than
when LeBron James has a first-team All-NBA player play alongside him the year that he makes it, like Michael Jordan had, like Larry Bird had, like Magic Johnson had, like Kareem had, then we can talk.
Kyrie's not that guy?
Kyrie has never been first-team All-NBA.
Oh, Shannon, it's okay if you admit that he's not on Jordan's level. He admitted he's not. He's chasing him. He's chasing the ghost.
No, that's not what Jeff Van Gundy said. He's in the conversation, and we should have this conversation, Skip.
We just did again, and it's over.
And
you got to face the facts.
And in 3 years, when LeBron got that haul, got to take a dump truck to pull all them trophies he done won, MVPs and the Finals MVP.
You'll be driving the dump truck.
I sure will.
No mercy. Colin Kaepernick is still without an NFL team. There has been speculation that he is being blackballed because of his national anthem protest last season. Sociologist Dr. Harry Edwards, who's a consultant to the 49ers, told USA Today that 3 teams have contacted him about Kaepernick since free agency started in March. Edwards said they've asked, can he play? Does he want to play? The last question I can't answer. The first question, absolutely. If Cap makes up his mind, he wouldn't only go in and make a team. He'd put pressure on somebody to start. Shannon, what do you make of this?
This gets stranger and stranger by the day. Skip Bayless, I've never met Dr. Harry Edwards, but I have the utmost respect for him. I've read about him, and the 1967 Black Summit was organized by one Harry Edwards, who's a sociology professor and one of the most profound thinkers of things black, be it politics, be it social issues. So I have nothing but profound respect for him. Skip, I was texting Cap last night, and when I sent the text and I set the phone down, my phone started buzzing. It was Cap. We always text, but we very seldom talk. So when the phone started ringing, I knew something was on his mind that he wanted to share with me. And he said, Shannon, I really, really appreciate it, what you're doing. I was like, I'm just giving my point of view. He says, people keep putting out that I'm asking for $10 million. He said, Shannon, they don't know what I'm asking for. I have not talked to. My representative has not talked to. What I find even stranger, Skip, is why are teams reaching out to a sociology professor and not calling the player and his representative himself? Dr. Harry Edwards says he's healthy enough to play, but he can't answer the question, does he want to play? You would think you're that close to Cap, you don't know if he wants to play? This is not adding up. Here's something else. It seems to me that everything that's starting to disseminate out is coming from one organization, Skip. That's the former organization that Colin Kaepernick played for. Now, John Lynch said early on he knew for a fact that one team wanted to sign Colin Kaepernick. It's hard for me to believe that he could know that when he didn't know the Chicago Bears was going to take Mitchell Trubisky.
Good point.
It's funny how all of a sudden he can't hold weight because he's a vegan. Since when does the NFL care what the players eat? Do you see how big some of those linemen are, Skip? They don't care what people eat. Another excuse. And what I find that since so much information is coming out of San Francisco, guess who's been a paid consultant to the San Francisco 49ers for over 20 years, Skip Bayless? The very advisor that these people, the alleged three teams have called. This is what I want to know. Skip, what do you think Joey liked for breakfast? Why would I ask you when Joy is sitting right here? I can ask Joy, what would you like for breakfast? Why would you ask Harry Edwards, who's a sociology professor, whether or not Colin Kaepernick wants to play and whether or not he still can play when you can pick up the phone and call Colin Kaepernick himself, when you can call his representative yourself? Now, I don't know. I could be wrong, Skip. I don't know how many teams have Dr. Edwards' phone number on speed dial, but I bet you all 32 know who his representative is, and if they wanted to reach out and get in touch with him, they could. If you want to know something about politics and social issues, Harry Edwards is the guy you probably should call. He and Michael Eric Dyson. Yeah. But if you want to know something about Colin Kaepernick as a quarterback, shouldn't you reach out to one of his former quarterback coaches? Shouldn't you reach out to the offensive coordinator? You're asking a guy that his expertise is not football, but you're asking him football-related questions. Something doesn't smell right to me, Skip.
I agree.
And as talking to Cap last night, no team has called him. They don't know if he'll be. He said, Shannon, they keep saying I couldn't be a backup. So if you saying I don't want to be a backup, you think I'm a starter. So now it's gone from the fact he can't play because he doesn't want to be a backup because he was a starter before. And most starters, once they become a starter, they can't be a backup. That's nonsense. There are a lot of guys that transition. Mark Sanchez was a starter for a number of years, wasn't he, Skip? He transitioned to a backup. Matt Castle, backup, started, backup. Brian Hoyer, backup, starter, backup. Now he's starting again. Josh McCown, basically a lot of his career. Skip, something's not adding up. Now, I don't know why all of this information is coming out of San Francisco, because now the Peter King thing is really starting to make me think, where is he getting this information from? Maybe all he wants to be is a social justice warrior. Where is that coming from? Because now
somebody inside the 49ers said that.
Is saying they don't know if he wants to play, but he's capable of playing. What guy you know, Skip, capable of playing, that has an opportunity to play, doesn't want to play? If a team had called Jay Cutler, Skip, do you actually think Jay Cutler would be working here at Fox with us? Absolutely not. If somebody
I don't know that for a fact, but you're probably right.
If Jerry Jones releases Tony Romo and a team gives him an opportunity to be the starting quarterback, Skip, you think Tony Romo's in the booth? You know that.
No.
So this guy right here, they keep saying, well, I don't know if he wants to play. I don't know if he can play. He's lost so much weight. Here's the guy, Skip. He said, Shannon, and these are his words verbatim. He's like, Shannon had shoulder surgery and wrist surgery. How was I supposed to lift? How was I supposed to maintain weight, lift my weight when I couldn't lift? He says, I'm back to my regular playing weight. I weigh between 228 and 230.
That'll work.
How about
plenty.
Normally when people do background checks on you, they get that information and they call you in for a face-to-face meeting. They don't do background checks, talk to people behind the scenes, and then make their decision without talking to you. Something doesn't smell right. It doesn't pass the eye test, and it doesn't pass the smell test to me, Skip.
Okay, so are you suggesting or suspecting that Dr. Edwards is being negatively influenced by someone inside the 49ers because Dr. Edwards is a consultant for the 49ers?
I'm going to put it to you like this. Colin Kaepernick and his cause doesn't pay Dr. Edwards' bills.
Okay, I hear you loudly and clearly. So I'm with you. I have, for many years, had nothing but respect for Dr. Edwards. He's now a professor emeritus at Cal Berkeley, great school. But it's just hard for me to process that not one or two, but 3 NFL teams would choose to call Dr. Edwards to find out about Colin Kaepernick, even though Dr. Edwards has been an advisor, a mentor of sorts to Colin.
Correct.
But why, if you really cared, would you call Dr. Edwards when you could just as easily pick up the phone and talk to his representative? You could even just call Colin and just check him out on the phone if you wanted to, because the answers to those 2 questions are...
They're backwards.
They're backwards because can he play? Dr. Edwards says, sure, he can't. He's capable of playing, that he's capable of being a starter, that he would go in, that was the quote, he would go in and immediately threaten the starting quarterback with his job.
Correct.
Right? Then does he want to play? And Dr. Edwards, the advisor to Colin Kaepernick, says, I can't answer that. Really? Well, I think I can because I'm pretty sure he really, really wants to play.
Of course.
Because you know that. You've been texting with him.
Yes, yes.
So if you know it, how would somebody as close as Dr. Edwards to Colin Kaepernick not be able to say that? That's discouraging news from Dr. Edwards, right?
Yes.
That's sending a bad message. I'm not sure he wants to play.
But hold on, Skip.
Really?
This is what I found. You remember on May 5th, we did a topic that Dr. Edwards said it's a shame that Colin Kaepernick is not on the roster.
Yeah.
And it's a very bad look. Now, at that time, he did not mention 3 teams had reached out to him and asked about Colin Kaepernick. Now, hold on now. The free agency process started on March 9th. Here we are May 12th. May 5th, so almost 2 months, he doesn't mention 3 teams called him about Colin Kaepernick.
Correct.
He said it is a shame. The NFL should be ashamed that Colin Kaepernick is not on a roster. And if he's not on the roster, it's a very bad look. But yesterday on May 11th, 3 teams had called him. He mentioned nothing about this on May 5th. He mentioned nothing about this for 6, 7 weeks. He sat on it. Now, you're calling a professor, a highly thought of professor of sociology, one of the foremost thinkers and foremost authorities on black social issues. You're calling him, asking him about a quarterback and can he play? And when they ask you, can he play, you're like, absolutely. Does he want to play? I can't answer that.
Okay, which would then feed the notion pushed by the 49ers, oh, he's more interested in being a social justice warrior, right?
Look here. I don't like to speak for nobody. I can't speak for Harry Edwards, but I can talk to Cap because over the last 7, 8 months, Skip, you know I've become very close with Cap. I think I'm one of the few people that's on television that he trusts. He knows I'm gonna shoot him straight, and just like that, we had some conversations about football. I shot him straight last night, and I said, Colin, I'm always gonna be up front with you. I said, if I thought something you were doing was wrong, I would tell you. I said, but something doesn't smell right here. And I said, you need to get to the bottom of this.
I'm with you. Because in the end, for even Dr. Edwards to say, I think he'll be on a team because they need him on a team, that's the wrong message. Then you're trying to back the NFL into a corner.
Fight him into a corner. No, they don't. The NFL doesn't need any player because when you're this old and Tom Brady's going to retire, and Elway and all the greats retired. And guess what, Skip? The NFL is getting more and more powerful. So they don't need anybody. But something's not right, Skip. Can he play? Yeah, he can play. Does he want to play? I don't know about
It's strange
that.
someone whose expertise isn't football would know more about his football ability and feel more comfortable speaking about that than he would about his personal desires. It's weird motivation.
Yeah.
No mercy. This week, Jerry Jones was asked if the Cowboys would honor Tony Romo this season. Recently, the Cowboys re-signed DeMarcus Ware so he could retire as a Cowboy. Let's take a listen to Jerry.
Is the idea that his recognizing him for what he's done for the Cowboys likely? Yes. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves at all on what we might do.
You said you don't want to get ahead of yourself with that.
Yes.
Why is doing something for Tony getting ahead of yourself but not DeMarcus? Why was doing something for DeMarcus not getting ahead of yourself?
DeMarcus retired.
No, I understand. But
and Tony hasn't.
We're joined by Fox Sports analyst Greg Jennings. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Good morning.
Skip, let me start with you. What do you make of this?
Look, despite what our man Eric Mangini has said time and again on this show, I do not see Tony Romo coming back to play next year. But it's still possible, so I do respect what Jerry Jones, we just heard, say. He has to observe the possible do-wrong rule by which Tony Romo would suddenly decide he's flopping at broadcasting or he doesn't like broadcasting, and he says, the Redskins called, I'm going to try this. And he comes out of the booth in October to play for the Washington Redskins. What if Jerry at that point had scheduled some Romo day for Romo's first trip back as a broadcaster to Jerry World, which comes on November 5th against Kansas City Chiefs? What if they'd set up a big production at halftime? Romo would take the elevator down and do a quick appearance out on the field to be honored in between his broadcast gig.
Correct.
For CBS. It would look pretty foolish. So, look, you and I agree on this. Tony Romo was never addicted to football. He was never obsessed with football. We've agreed that I think he loves golf and basketball more than he ever loved really playing quarterback and obsessing over preparing his body and his mind to win football games. I just don't think he was ever that into it, so I think it's going to be much easier for him to pull away from it, even though he now says again and again, I miss it. Yeah, I guess you do, but I don't think you miss it that much. But the X factor here for me, and you can speak to this, I don't know how he's going to do as a broadcaster because nobody can really know.
Right.
Because I interviewed Troy Aikman 1,000 times when he was a player, and he was well-spoken, but he was a pretty dry, dull interview, and he's a great analyst. It is so hard to process at breakneck speed what is happening down below you on a football field and be insightful and enlightening right on cue about it. And I don't know, Emmitt Smith was a charming, witty, clever interviewed him thousands of times when he played, and he just didn't translate on television. I don't know why. It just didn't come across right, and as an analyst, he couldn't process quickly enough to put it in the right perspective or whatever. I don't know. It just didn't work for him. What if Romo gets up there and the light goes on and it just doesn't fly? It's possible.
And when you're doing color, Skip, you're talking basically in sound bites because you got the lead that's leading you in, and then you got to talk before the next play. You can't be trying to finish up a point while they're lining up at the line of scrimmage getting ready to run another play. And it's harder than he thinks. Hopefully he's prepping and doing work now and getting in the studio and working on that, Skip. But what is he being honored for? First of all, we got to go along. Excuse me. Skip, are these your Dallas Cowboys?
Mine?
Yeah.
I claim them, yeah.
Oh, you claim.
Okay.
That was some hesitation.
With the Cowboys,
sometimes,
Cowboys tradition and history, should Tony Romo be? This is not the Jacksonville Jaguars now.
No.
This is not the Carolina Panthers. We're talking about one of the more storied franchises in all of football. So, Skip, he's not even a top 5, top 7 offensive player for the Cowboys in their history. Because even if you just take the quarterbacks, Aikman and Staubach, and then you got Smith and Dorsett, you got Michael Irvin and Bob Hayes.
No, I'm with you.
Larry Allen. I didn't even mention the defense. So hold on.
His one-loss regular season record was really good.
But
that's all I can give you.
But,
it was.
But Cowboy quarterbacks are hollowed for what they accomplish in the playoffs. Do you bring another Lombardi to the new place in Frisco? He didn't do that.
Nope.
Skip, they don't build statues for people that were good. They don't give out medals. What do they call the medal of good? I heard of a medal of excellence, medal of valor, heart, crosses. But they don't do that for good. He was good. And even if he's not one of the quarterbacks like an Elway Marino, they don't wait the necessary 5 years for the team to honor them by putting them up in the stadium.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Tony Romo, you gonna get honored. I just want to know, what are we honoring him for?
Okay, because maybe he was like a son to the owner, whose word is the last word in that franchise. Like if the owner says, I'm going to honor him, what are you going to do?
Nothing.
Well, I mean, I wish I was like a son to somebody. If that's all it takes. I'm a good guy.
You are a good guy.
I mean, here's my issue with it. And I agree with Jerry Jones. You don't honor Tony Romo right now. He has, in my opinion, he still does have 1 foot in, 1 foot out of a lot of different things. Golf, broadcast, football, whatever the case may be, that he feels like can fill that void right now for not being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think he's completely over that, how it all transpired. I don't think he really loves the way it went down, and he wants another opportunity. He's hoping for that opportunity. But right now, he has to fill that void to continue doing what he needs to do for himself. In saying all of that, the problem that I have with all of this is Jerry Jones has gone out several times publicly and said, Tony Romo is my quarterback, when he was the quarterback. When have we heard him say, Dak Prescott is my quarterback? This is our future. That leads me to believe that there's some type of communication that if, and you made a great point, he could potentially go somewhere else if it doesn't work out in the broadcast booth. And Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys now look like idiots almost if they had set something up to honor Tony Romo, which in your point, I agree. What are we honoring Tony Romo for? Because he had no success beyond the regular season, let's just face it. But my issue is, give Dak Prescott his due. He does it with any other draft pick.
I buy that.
This is his team now. Yep. Tell him, give him the support that you've given Tony Romo for years. Let this team progress and move forward with this young kid, these 2 studs on offense, this offensive line, and now this up-and-coming defense. Let's give Dak Prescott what he deserves.
Just remember, 1 year ago, about right now, after last year's draft, Jerry Jones made the mistake of going on record with the reporters that he regretted not trading up for Paxton Lynch.
Yep.
And he didn't even really seem to know who Dak Prescott was. Scott Linehan liked him from the Senior Bowl. Yep. Jason Garrett knew him from the Senior Bowl. Kind of fell into their lap in the 4th round. Jerry's uninterested because he wanted Paxton Lynch. Well, how bad do you think Jerry looks now in his eyes? It shamed him. It hurt his ego, his football ego.
I feel like he can fix all of that. He was wrong. It happens, especially with that position. You know how many wrong selections have been made? How many selections that we thought or teams thought, owners thought was the right one and they busted? No. I mean, but he was wrong. Just own it. Let your fans know, you know what? This is our quarterback. This is our future. This is who we're building our team around.
If you put Jerry on a lie detector right now, he would say he's not sold on Dak Prescott. I will bet you he would.
If this the Texans, if this the Jags, this Carolina team just up and coming, Skip, not with this tradition.
Yeah,
not with the Cowboys, and not with the players that has that star and has that gold jacket. Skip, he won 2 playoff games. And you talking
Romo,
about
you mean.
Romo,
Yeah.
and we're going to honor him for that?
Well, the Cowboys have 3 quarterbacks in the Ring of Honor, which is Don Meredith, Roger Staubach, and Troy Aikman. So if you think that he is in the same conversation with them, then that's where he belongs.
And that's the problem. He's not.
Well,
you know that.
But guess who chooses who goes in the Ring of Honor?
Jerry.
One guy.
Yeah, one guy. But what's the rush? It's not going anywhere. You can do it next year, maybe.
You got 100 years.
No mercy.
We're joined now by one of the stars of the Big Three League, Stephen Jackson. Welcome to Undisputed.
Welcome.
Glad to be.
So the teams are now set, and tomorrow tickets go on sale for all the Big Three games this summer. You can go to Ticketmaster.com to buy the tickets. We're all very excited about this. So tell us a little bit about the Big Three.
Well, it's a chance for guys like me who still play the game, play the game at a high level. We get a chance to compete again, and I think that's something that we never really forget once we leave the game. Being able to compete on a high level, play against guys that we've been playing against our whole career. It's exciting because a lot of guys can still play in the NBA, and people are going to see that once the Big Three start. But the camaraderie you grow with these guys over the years and being able to compete, that's what I'm looking forward to.
By the way, anything Cube ever touches turns to gold.
That's right.
He's got that magic touch, right?
I agree.
So how much do you want to keep playing basketball at the highest level?
As long as I can. Thank God I've been able to play 14 years with no injuries, no surgeries, body's healthy. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to play till the wheels fall off. And you got to thank Q for this opportunity. He's a big fan of basketball. And to give us this outlet to play again, we all need it.
Would you like to have another shot at the NBA?
Of course, whether it's coaching or playing.
Okay.
Just being around the game, this is what I know. This is what I put my heart into my whole life. So why not do it?
So give us some insight into how it's going to look and feel. Describe it. How it's going to play out? Well,
we were able to play a exhibition game in Vegas. It was actually me, Al Harrington, and Ricky Davis against Corey Maggette, Catino Mobley, and Junkyard Dog. And it's a 4-point shot. That really would change the game. It's 3-on-3, and like Dick Corey said, if you can't play defense, you're going to get exposed because the court is wide open.
Right. And how long's the game?
Well, the game is 15 points a quarter, so to 60 points.
Okay.
And it goes pretty fast because you might catch a guy that gets on fire real quick, like when the scrimmage, Catino hit 2 4-point shots. That'll change the game real quick.
And it's from how far? 4 is from?
It's like probably between half court and 3-point line. Yeah, probably. But it's not far as you think.
Right. So in other words, if you get to 15, the first team to 15,
quarter's over.
Quarter's over.
Yep.
Yep, and halftime happens after they score. The team scores 30 points. The team must win by 4 points. Very exciting stuff. Well, let's talk about one of your former teams, the Spurs. They blew out the Rockets last night without Kawhi Leonard. James Harden had just 10 points and didn't even attempt a shot until the middle of the second quarter. Stephen, what do you make of Harden's performance last night?
I want to use my Kanye line when he was on Sway. How, Sway? How? You mean to tell me that we're talking about this guy's an MVP and you don't take a shot? You don't come out with a killer instinct? The game has changed, and people don't want to say it, but I've never seen a time where you have a star, a possible MVP, and a chance to get to the Western Conference Finals, and you don't bring everything. You don't put your life on the line. It's something I've never seen before.
So was it more of what the Spurs did, or was it more of what the Rockets didn't do?
Well, regardless of what the Spurs do, they shouldn't be able to dictate your effort and your passion and the way you play the game. The beginning of the game, it looked like he didn't even want to be there. How?
He was at the concert. Travis Stark had a concert going on.
Exactly.
Exactly. So the Pop system and the way they play defense, but Pop hadn't played two guys much all year, Jonathan Simmons, DeJounte Murray, who was the 29th overall pick as a rookie, bottom of the first round, and all of a sudden he throws them in because he has to, and both of them just rise and shine, which was pretty shameful on the part of the Rockets to allow those two guys to take over a game that is your closeout game at home.
Right. The thing was, those guys, they care. They have something to prove. They want to go on. One thing about Pop, he might be a great coach, but as much as he gets those guys prepared, they go out there and put that into motion. Pop made a lot of adjustments in that game, but the Spurs wanted that series way more than the Rockets did, and it was obvious to see last night.
Cap, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If you had a choice right now, you taking LeBron or you taking Kawhi?
I'm still taking LeBron.
Who do you think is the best player in the NBA?
LeBron is the best player in the NBA as long as he's playing.
Don't give me that. Give it to him. It's for him.
He's like 38 now or something like that. Is he 38 or 37?
But go ahead and tell him, fill him in, Jack.
But, I always got to say this, Phil. You're my favorite guy in the world.
Thank you.
But LeBron, to this day, but he's the best all-around player ever to see this game. And it's not even close.
Wait, are we going better than that guy in Chicago?
He's not the best player.
Okay.
I said best all around. No, we've never seen a guy in the NBA with this skill set. He does everything. He does everything, and nobody's ever done that.
Okay, so if Kawhi Leonard is close to 100%, what chance do you give Coach Popovich's team against Golden State?
Oh, it's 50-50. They got a great chance.
Uh-huh.
They got a great chance, considering the coach and the players he have. Yes, they have a great chance.
Because of the players, how?
Experience. Experience is a lot. Pop know how to get guys ready. And I think what Pop has over a lot of coaches is the attention to detail.
Right.
He knows what guys like to do. And in the playoffs, you got to take stuff away. And like a guy like to drive left, make him go right. Pop is real good at that, and a lot of coaches in the NBA don't really.
You clashed occasionally with Pop because you are your own man.
We clashed a lot.
A lot. So describe him as a coach. What makes him tick?
Not being for the team, putting your own personal goals ahead of the team goals. I've done that a couple of times, meaning that I want to play when he took me out of games, and I go on the sideline and pout or whatever. And that's when he got upset with me.
Ginobili, right?
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
and forth, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't like that because he felt like I was putting my personal feelings instead of the team feelings. But I learned a lot from Pop. You know, I respect him. I respect him highly, and you know, I was thankful that I was able to play with him because he made me a professional. He made me a professional.
So bottom line, who wins Golden State, San Antonio?
I'm going with Golden State. This is too much talent over there, man. Too much firepower. You know, you got two guys that's under Pop's tutelage. You know, you got Mike Brown and Steve Kerr, you know, so I don't see anybody beating Golden State.
So you don't think they might miss Steve just a little bit in a game or two?
No, not at all.
No?
Mike's still there. I think everything Steve preaches, it'll get through with Mike. They have the same respect for Mike. If not, you know, the more respect from him being around and being a championship coach. He took teams to the finals himself. So I think they're in a good position.
No jive, Jack. No jive. I got the Dubs in 5. But you know they got that king in Akron. When he comes, he's a Category 5.
Category 5.
Okay, let's project. If it is Golden State, Cleveland, you have?
I got to go with Golden State. That's the family.
Shannon.
He said that's the family. But he knows. He knows what that guy's capable of.
The king is capable of anything.
Well, it sounds like you're saying the Spurs series is going to go, Golden State's going to go 7.
It's going to go 7. It's going to be a good series. But anytime LeBron's involved in the finals or Eastern Conference Finals, you got to give him.
Why does everybody know what you failed to admit?
Everybody came in here after game 1 of Spurs Houston and said, you got to give it up. They're done. They're
We agree on the Cowboys, though. We agree on the Cowboys.
Cowboys.
How
about them Cowboys?
No mercy. This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on Channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. That's it for us. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the hoops. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We're back on Monday. We'll talk to you then.
Fox Sports, one of one.